Hey y'all, welcome to the Filling Station. It's a new day, another opportunity to either make money in this market or to just learn from the market. But first, let me give my disclaimer. I am not a financial advisor. I just enjoy teaching people how to build generational wealth. And yes, the stock market is just one of those avenues. So this video is for educational purposes only. If you could please like, share, comment, subscribe, because we learn and we grow together. With that being said, y'all, let's get started. It was an interesting day in the market on yesterday, let's say that, right? So we are first now looking at Tesla, and Tesla does what Tesla does. That's the only, I can just say that, right? We closed at 241.55. Yesterday we made we closed at 241.55. Yesterday we made a low of 233.89. What's interesting is how we traded at this 250. We made a high of this 251.97, but I made these little gray shaded areas, and not quite sure if I can make them really big here, but I made these two gray shaded areas here because that was kind of like the zone. That was the, that is the supply zone. This is the demand zone. This is where our sellers are. This is where our buyers are, right? So I made that because it seemed like as soon as we got to that, we kind of bring back down. As soon as we got to this, we kind of went back up. Trading in a zone, right? So when we broke past this, it was interesting. Like, okay, is Tesla going to continue declining? And in my opinion, it was crazy move because we were going kind of sideways all morning, right? So this was an interesting, just to see it at this place. But I always say so often, y'all, Tesla does what Tesla does, right? But where are the trouble places pre-market? As of now, support was around the 241.85. As you can see, we bounced here back to the upside. However, that 50 EMA as of now, the 244.85 is an area of trouble for us. We got rejected there before, which is not surprising, right? Because how high this candle here is 246.45. So the high pre-market is around the 245. To see us, under that is Tesla, right? So where the trouble place is moving to the upside, we would definitely need to clear that 50 EMA around the 244.84. Why? Because we've been rejected there before. Breaking past that, we could possibly have trouble 245.93. If we should break that area, 246.55, there's a few layers there, right? 246.55. If we should break that area, 247.26, and breaking that brings us back to around the 248.10, which is the 200 EMA as of now. And y'all see I have this gray shaded area there. That's why it's so important that we mark the support and resistance area. Now back to the downside. Let's say if by chance we break back under the 242.66, as you can see, that's where the body of this candle here, so that's an area as of a support area for us, 242.66. If we should break that, we can come back to 241.85, and breaking that level brings us back to the 240.86, which is the ATR trailing stop right there, and a level that I have marked, y'all. I enjoy charting, let me say that, right? So if we should break that 240.76 or 240.86 area for Tesla, we could very well come back to around the 239.82. Breaking that brings us close to the 239.45, but not far away, right? If we should break that area, 238.27, breaking that brings us back to 236.29. And if we should break that level, we could very well come back to the 234.57. Breaking that brings us back to 233.68. If we should break that 233 today, we could very well come back to 232. Around the 232 area. Breaking the 232 brings us back to this level here of 230.76. So if you are trading Tesla today, those are kind of areas to the upside and to the downside, or support and resistance. And y'all know I say in this market, anything is possible. Nothing is guaranteed. And it seems as if SPY is kind of like did the exact same thing. It seemed like all the charts are mirrored today. So the SPY closed at 525.66, and it too, I'm going to see if I can make this a little bit bigger, y'all, without, yes, okay. So the SPY came down Looks like we're finding support here at this 528.05, right? So that's what price is gathered as of now. The high of this candle is 530.95. It looks like we tried to come up to this place only to get rejected. So where are the trouble places as of now? That 5 EMA is going to be a resistance area for us at that 528.78. If we should break that level, 529.12, breaking that kind of like, you know, we could say around the 529.32, which is our 50 EMA as of now, which is not far from the 530.02. Breaking that 530.02, 530.35, and if we should break that 530.75, breaking that 531.02, and if we should break that, it brings us back to around the 531.39 area. Breaking that 531.39, 531.82, and again 532.26. Breaking that brings us back to 532.76. Now, back to the downside, if we lose the support here at 528.05, we can come back to 527.57. Breaking that brings us back to around the 525.84. Under that level, 524.95. If we should break that, we could very well come back to 523.83 and breaking that 523.24. 522.60. If we break that 522.60 area for the SPY, we very well can come back to around the 521.76 and then 521.02. Again, I look at support and resistance on a much smaller scale because when I'm in the trade, I kind of want to know where my possible trouble places are. So we are now looking at NVDA. We closed at 104.49, coming off of a $100 low yesterday. That's interesting, right? So as of now, where are the trouble places for NVIDIA? Support at around 105.08. Resistance could be, let's say, around this 105.61 area. I wanted to point out that price stayed in this area for a while here. So I need to remember that here. As you can see, let me see if I can get that cursor off and remove that. So price came to this area, body here, you know, body here. We came to this area around 105.64. So that is a rejection area, resistance or possible resistance area for us. Breaking back to the upside above the 105.64, 106.24, 106.44, not far away, and 106.78. 106.78 is our 200 EMA as of now on this 30-minute chart. Breaking that level brings us back to around the 107.14. If we break that 107.14 and we have that high of 107.38, which is here, that could very well be a rejection area for us. Breaking that 107.38, I have the next level of 108.52. Those are areas to the upside or your resistance areas for NVIDIA as of now. Now back to the downside, you see we have found support here. I'm going to see if I can come over here and mark this level here. And as we see prices here, that's a place that we probably need to remember, and that is around the 104.48. If we should break that level, we can come back to around the 104.04. If we should break that level for NVIDIA, 103.86. Breaking that brings us back to the ATR trail and stop around the 103.58, which is right at an area that I have marked here at 103.62. It's very important that we mark those places. Now, if we should lose that area of 103.58, we can come back to around, let's say, the body here, around 103.03. If we should break that level for NVIDIA, we could very well come back to a 102.02, which is kind of here where we are here. Breaking that level brings us back to around the $100.98, and if we break that $100.51, and that's not far from the $100.45 that we have here. So if you are trading NVIDIA today, those are kind of areas to the upside and to the downside. And y'all know I say so often, in this market, anything is possible, nothing is guaranteed, right? So let's look at AMD today just to see where we are. We closed at $88.29. It is trading here in a zone. I need to remember those places, right? So we're going to mark the high here. So support is around, let's say, the $89.06, and the resistance around the $89.99. Now, if we wanted to get on a much smaller scale of that, we could possibly have resistance around the $89.74, right? Because, or the $89.78. Why? Because something stopped us here, and it falls in line with the top of those candles there. So we could possibly mark that if you like to chart. Let's say that now, or if you want to know where micro levels are, as I would like to say, right? So where are the trouble places today for AMD? As of now, again, support is at 89.06. We can say the resistance is around 89.79. Breaking that 89.99, not very far away. Should we break that level, $90.61 is our 200 EMA as of now for AMD. Let's say we get back above that. Let me go to a higher time frame. And that was, let's say, $90.61. I'm going to mark that here so that when I go to my next time frame, I know where that is. $90.61. If we break that $90.61, we have $90.93, which is the ATR trailing stop on the 1 hour chart. Should we break that level, the 200 EMA as of now is $91.37. So if you're trading AMD today, those are areas to the upside that I will possibly look at as a rejection area or resistance. Now back to the downside, under 89.03, we can very well come back to $88.65. Breaking that level brings us back to 88.32, not far from the ATR trailing stop at 88.17. Should we break that 88.17 level, 87.70 is the next level of support. If we should break that, or around that area, if we should break that 86.97, breaking the 86.97, and as you can see, y'all, that's where the body of these candles are here. Something stopped us there. So 86.94, should we break that level, we could very well come back to the 85.21. So if you're trading AMD today, those are kind of areas to the upside and to the downside. And y'all know I say so often, in this market, anything is possible. We're now looking at Apple. We closed at 194.27 after coming off of this 192 low from yesterday. As of now, it seems like we're trading in a zone here. So a possible support area is 195.84. Resistance I had marked here at 196.93, and as you can see, we tried to come up, got rejected, only to come back down to this area of where, you know, the zone that I had marked as a support and resistance. Now back to the upside, we need to break above the 196.93 for Apple. Breaking past that level gives us trouble around the, let's say, the 200 EMA, which is around the 197.73, and the ATR trailing stop at around the 197.83. So we could very well have trouble in this area. As he says, you know, as we see here, you know, we had tried to come up only to get rejected. Now breaking this 197.83 for Apple brings us back to around the 198.95 area. Breaking that brings us back to around the 199.73, and if we break that, we could possibly have trouble, $200.83. Now back to the downside, should we break under the 195.84 for Apple, we could very well come back 195.46. If we should break that, around 194.96, and breaking that level, 194.47. Should we break that 194.47 for Apple, we could very well come back to around the 193.04. So if you're trading Apple today, those are kind of some areas to the upside and to the downside. It is trading in a zone as of now. It could break out in either direction. So if you are trading today, I say trade carefully. Did we look at Meta? So we are now looking at Meta. We closed at 502.31. It too is trading in a gathering spot. Trouble places back to the upside. Upside 509.96. Breaking that level, 512.95. Breaking that brings us back to around the 519.45. Okay, let's go back. So from the 513.29, which is around the ATR trailing stop, we could very well have trouble 514.97. And I'm just going here to where the candles are here, because something stopped us here. around the 515.14 area, and if we should break that around the 517.03. So I marked a few micro levels in between this level here that I had marked of 512.95 and the resistance at 519.45. There's a few layers here that could have stopped us out or could stop us out. So let's go back. Now 513.29 is the ATR trailing stop. If we should break through that, 515.15, and if we should break that, 517.03, and again 519.45, breaking that brings us back to around the 521.39, which is the 200 EMA as of now. Breaking that 200 EMA as of now could, we could possibly have trouble again at 528.97. So if you're trading Meta today, those are kind of areas to the upside. Now to the downside, under 504.17, we could very well come back to around this area of 501.81. And if we should break that, it brings us back to 497.76 as a support place. If we should break that 497, we had a low here of 495.63. So if you're trading Meta today, those are possible areas to the upside and to the downside. Now, I will say breaking under this 495.63, we could very, very well come back to around this 484.11. So those are possible, and I say possible because anything can change in this market. Support and resistance areas for Meta today. Now we do have a few inside day candles, and I just like to look at those because it kind of gives me a possible target if it should break beyond this level. J&J, Johnson & Johnson, is an inside day candle today. If by chance we break above 155.56, upside target 156.37. To the downside, under 152.17, we have a downside target for 151.81. Wells Fargo, WFC, is also an inside day candle today. So breaking above 64.98, upside target 65.38. To the downside, under 63.32, we have a downside target of 63.28. So if you're trading Wells Fargo today, it is an inside day candle. So y'all, these are some of the things that I see when I look at the market. There's so many ways to trade the market. I need to say that there's so many ways to trade the market. What's challenging sometimes is finding a strategy that works best for you and having the discipline to execute your plan. So I always say make sure you understand the game before you just jump in the game. Make sure you study your levels and mark your levels, and once it goes against your why, have the discipline to get out. Set your stop losses or whatever it is that you choose to use. Make sure you have the discipline to execute your plan. So I hope that everyone have a very profitable and a very, very productive day today. If you could please like, share, comment, and subscribe, because y'all, we learn and we grow together. With that being said, be blessed as well as a blessing unto others. Until next time.